Hi, Steve Stine here. Thank you so much for taking time out to join me. I want to help you today in trying to get yourself a little bit organized. So you'll notice I don't have a guitar with or anything like that. But I want to talk to you a little bit about how to organize your practice, maybe your life, whatever it would be, and the steps that I took to try and get myself organized. Now, I, probably like you, have 7 million things going on in my life, and it's really hard to keep track of everything. And then I'm always finding new things that I'm excited about, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's on, social media or just, Google or whatever it would be, or, something out of a magazine that I'm reading and stuff like that. And it's like hard to keep track of all these different things. Now, what I used to do 20 years ago was that I had a folder that I would take and scan everything from the magazines that I used to buy, and I would organize them in a folder with different tabs, right? So one would be for soloing, for instance, or one would be for technique, or one would be for groove, or one would be for theory, or whatever. So what I want to do is try and help you a little bit on understanding that, because I get a lot of people that are asking, how do I keep myself organized when I'm always so overrun with information? So again, this might be boring, and if it is, you certainly don't need to listen to it, but I just want to give you some advice on what I do. Now, a few years back, I was if you know what Montessori education is, I was a Montessori instructor for about 14 years. And we would have meetings on a weekly basis on trying to get ourselves organized. So we would talk about just the simplest things about trying to keep our papers organized, or how to grade papers properly, or all these different things. And I used to think while I was sitting in those meetings, this is so boring because, I can keep track of everything, right? I got it in my brain. And it wasn't until just a few years ago that even in the last maybe 3 years, that I really started figuring out how to organize literally everything in my life, from my finances to my family, to groceries, to guitar playing, to studio stuff, to songwriting, travel, all of these different things. But each one of those things are their own process, right? So here's what we have to understand about organization is organization takes time. And the problem is if you're like me, you get so far behind on organization that you start forgetting things, or you don't remember where you put something, or you stored it on your computer or on your tablet or on your phone, but you don't remember where you put it. And so all of a sudden, all this stuff becomes just, again, overwhelming. So what I want to tell you is some things that you could do to make this a little more organized. And I've got some ideas I thought about this morning on my phone that I would give you, but there are so many different ways that you can do this, okay? So let's say, for instance, what the big thing that I've done is I've made the transition to pretty much all digital, okay? And not that that's the best thing, but the music I listen to usually is done with Spotify, or it's done with iTunes Music, or it's done with Tidal, or whatever it might be. And there's a reason for that, is because I need that music available wherever I go. So if I'm working with a student and I've got a song that they want to learn, and I'm not at home where my CD collection is or something like that, I've still got access to whatever it is they need. I also have all of my jam tracks that I generally use in lessons or whatever it might be. I've got all of those stored as well into playlists. So the first thing I want you to understand is playlists. Okay, taking your music and organizing it. Now, you might organize it by bands or whatever. I like to organize playlists by techniques, for instance. It might be in terms of genre, like acoustic or blues or rock or metal or whatever it might be. But then I also have ones that are right-hand practice. Right, for me, that's my picking. Left-hand practice. So songs that use more legato stuff that I might use. Speed picking, just different kinds of things like that. And there might be some overlap, right, where something doesn't fit absolutely perfect in one category, but they're my playlists, so they make sense to me. Okay, so that's one thing that you can do. The second thing that I did was I made the transition with guitar magazines, which I still buy and I still read and I still learn from, but I moved from buying the physical books, which I like better, but I moved into buying them digitally because again, I have access to them, I can take screenshots of them and I can organize them in a way that I'm going to tell you in just a minute. So it just became easier for me than trying to scan stuff all the time, which is just more time consuming than I'm willing to spend anymore. So it's not that I don't still buy a book here and there or a magazine, because I will. If I'm in an airport and I need something to read or whatever, but that usually means I have to make some sort of conversion of, taking a picture of it with my phone, which is very easy to do, okay? Or, typing something up from a quote or an exercise or something that I like, and that's fine too. Those are all great ways that you can approach this, okay? So that's music and then magazines. Okay, now we get into the more difficult thing where let's just stay away from like web pages. Let's just talk about you for a second. Trying to figure out how to organize yourself. Now, I have always found the easiest way to do this is to have, markers or tabs that keep track of things. So one will be Steve Personal, right? One will be Stine Family, right? Where I keep track of things like that. One would be finances. One would be groceries, blah, 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 these sorts of things. So I can quickly go to a tab digitally, and I can find the bigger picture of the process that I'm looking for. And certainly I have ones for guitar as well. So I like software where I can organize it like that, okay? I am very much a digital person. I have a tablet and I have a phone and all that sort of thing. And I tend to spend more time on those than I do an actual notebook anymore where I write everything out. I used to do that, but then I found that, I left my notebook at home, so now I got to go buy another notebook, and you can't see it right now, but I've got about 7 notebooks sitting on the floor here. So this is where my confusion started, was my organization, my processes, if you will, were everywhere. I had a book over here for guitar, and then I had, this folder or this notebook that had tabs in it, but I didn't have it with when I traveled to wherever, so I had to buy another one. Well, now I got to transfer everything over, and it just became a nightmare for me. So it was easier for me to start figuring out, again, a couple years ago, I started trying to organize this, on how I could put everything into either one or multiple processes or apps that I could kind of keep myself organized. I'm going to tell you what I do, and then you can kind of figure out what might work for you. Now, again, if you're getting bored, I'm sorry. But just, you got to think about this a little bit, because your life becomes so much easier if you can get yourself organized, and a calendar is great. Obviously, you should have a calendar, but it's hard to keep track of everything, because for me, it's kind of like a funnel. Like there's one main category, and then there's subcategories from there. And it might include dates, no doubt about it. And I use 2 different apps. I use Google Calendar to keep track of my stuff. And then I have a personal one. I use a program called Cozy, which is COZI. And that's what my family uses. So if my daughter has a choir concert, or my other daughter has a dance recital, or my wife needs us to go here, or whatever it might be, everybody puts it in the Cozy calendar, because my Google Calendar, and everybody else's, I'm sure, is just overwhelmed with stuff. So I don't want to forget my family stuff, because that's really important. So I have a different calendar for that. Now, you might have different calendars for different things. I tend to keep all of my calendar stuff that is not family related in one place, and then all my family stuff is in one place. Okay? My finances. I have a spreadsheet that keeps track of everything that comes in and everything that goes out, to the best of my ability, and I can look at that on a daily basis and keep track of it. I used to run it in my calendar, but it just got lost with everything. So I'd rather look at a spreadsheet and see, here's my bills, and here's my income, and blah, 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 and I can see what's coming on the 10th, and I can see what's coming on the 12th, approximately, right? And I can kind of keep track of everything, okay? Then, with stuff like my bills or my calendars or whatever, when I go to Google Chrome or whatever it is you might use for a web browser, I've got folders that keep track of guitarzoom and Steve and all the stuff that pertains to just me, my practice, my life, my to-dos, all these different things, my family, right? All of these different things that I have, I've got tabbed out. Now, I use Google Chrome most of the time. So I've got tabs for each one, so I can keep track of everything, again, from the top folder down. So if I'm in Google Chrome and I need to know what's going on with my family, school or whatever it might be. That's all in one place. Now, it takes a while to customize all of this to figure out what works best for you, okay? So now let's get to the guitar aspect of this. Now, you might be like me where you have kind of a daily practice regimen that you use, but you're always coming across new information and you don't want to lose anything. You want to keep it all because someday you might want to get back to this, right? Or you have a goal. Now, again, I use Spotify or whatever it might be for the bands that I play in to keep track of all the songs that we play and all of those sorts of things. If it's all my own material, what I tend to use to keep track of all of my audio is Dropbox. I keep all my files, photos, all of those kind of things in Dropbox. Now, if you're not familiar with Dropbox, it's a really wonderful way of being able to share, audio files with other people and things like that. And again, it takes some organization, but then that way, I can, if I've got a friend that's working on a music project with me, I can, name a folder, whatever the name of the song is that I've been writing, and put my drums and my guitar and whatever in there. And then I always put a full mix track in there as well. So if my drummer gets it, he can just listen to the full track if he wants to and get a feel for the song that I've been writing. And then if he goes, oh, okay, I like that, but I'd like to change the drum part, or I'd like to change whatever, well, then he can pull out these other tracks and then create a new drum track. And then he'll, put it in there saying, Dave, edit with the date, drum track. Okay, well, then when I get it back, I can see that and go, oh, Dave created a new drum track. I can see the date. I can see the way that he labeled the track. So now I can just take that drum track, download it, and put it in my stuff, and it works just fine. So this is a great way of trying to keep track of tracks and things like that. Now, if you're an information person, okay, that's where I'm going to use my phone because I wrote down some things for you to think about. The big thing is if you're trying to keep track of web pages or web clippings or whatever it might be, there's a few different ways that you can do this. Now, it depends on the device you've got. I have, Apple stuff, so you might not be using that. You might be using Android or whatever. So you're going to have to figure out kind of what works for you. But from the Apple perspective, you can use something like I just said Dropbox or Google Drive or Microsoft 365 or something like that to build folders and keep stuff in, okay? But for me, that's good for collaboration, but I find that I get way too many Google Sheets or Google Documents, and then all of a sudden I've got chaos again. And again, I'll keep all those documents organized in my Google Chrome, right? I'll make a folder called whatever, right? And then I'll keep all of these documents that I'm creating in that folder. But I like, for my own usage, to be able to keep things a little more organized and not just documents like that. So here's what I want to talk to you about. If you do have an Apple device, there's an app called Notes. It's a very simple app, but it does really well if you don't want to spend any money for keeping track of different folders and then keeping all of your stuff in there. It's very simple, but it does work effectively to start learning how to organize yourself. And I don't mean to keep talking here, but here's the thing. If you start trying to organize yourself and it's not working, try something else, okay? Because you got to find what works for you. Now, I'm going to give you some other ideas, and then I'm going to kind of tell you all the different things that I use, and then that'll be it, okay? So a really great one to keep yourself organized, but it does require a little bit of a learning curve, is an app called Evernote. Now, Evernote is wonderful because it works on Mac, it works on PC, it works on your mobile devices, all these different things. Evernote is wonderful. The only thing with some of these apps is, depending on how much you use it and how much you need from it, you may have to pay a little bit of money each month or each year or whatever it would be to help get yourself organized. You might not, it depends. But Evernote is most certainly something worth looking at, because with Evernote, you can keep track of web clippings. So you could go to a page and go, hey, I want to keep this article, or I want to save this link. You can keep PDFs. You can make audio files. So if you want to talk into it or sing into it or play a little riff into it, you can put all of that stuff into Evernote. So it's a very versatile and well-rounded program. Now, if you like Microsoft has one called OneNote that works very, very well as well. And I think OneNote, I'm not sure if it's free or not. depending on the operating system that you're using. But OneNote is very effective. I wound up moving away from OneNote because it didn't work for me. That doesn't mean it's not going to work for you. For me, Evernote just seemed far easier to organize and keep track of things. And plus, you can get the business one, I think it is, and you can share it with other people and stuff like that. But again, I try and keep my sharing very minimal because then it just becomes chaos again. What I'm most concerned about is keeping track of me on the stuff that I've got, and then I push it out to other people through Dropbox or whatever it might be. Okay? So Evernote is a really great one. OneNote might be a really good one for you too. And again, I'm sure there's a lot of others, and you can comment on that if you want to and maybe give each other some advice on it. But it's worth getting yourself organized. Okay? Because every time I read a stinking article on guitar, I'm going, oh, I got to learn this. Wow, there's a new article on rockabilly, whatever. And then all of a sudden I've got more stuff I got to keep track of. So it's nice to have everything in one place. I don't want to lose it. I want to come back to it. So it's, future guitar ideas or future guitar licks or whatever it might be, to-dos, right? Okay, then we get a little more specified. I use an app called Trello, Trello, for sort of big picture thought ideas that go out. Okay, they go to a Trello board. I make different boards. And Trello is where I basically use all my processes. So, how I'm going to approach YouTube or how I'm going to approach Facebook or how I'm, ideas that I've got for guitar courses or ideas I've got for clinics, guitar clinics or whatever it might be. I keep all of these general ideas in Trello. That's step one for me. Okay. So Trello is a really great place to go and it's very inexpensive. So that's something you could do. Then what I do is I use Google Chrome, and there's lots of great extensions for Google Chrome. So here's another one you could try. It's called Noteboard, Note board, Board, right? So Noteboard is where I start creating my guitar courses. So I went from Trello and I got this idea here for a guitar course. So then I come over to Noteboard and I start creating that guitar course. Now, again, this might not work for you, but I like moving to another platform because that's where all my miscellaneous ideas are happening over in Trello. And then I come over to Noteboard and I start organizing my courses and all these different things. I start keeping track of everything there. So step one for me is Trello. Step two is Noteboard. Okay. And again, you might not like it at all, but it works really great for me. Okay. Another app that I've dabbled with, but I haven't really gone full on into is an extension called Nimbus, Nimbus. And they've got lots of great stuff, the extensions that you can get for Nimbus, where you can, copy web clippings and all these things, kind of like Evernote would, and then you can save all this different stuff. Just throwing it out there. Maybe somebody's used it before or you like it or whatever. Again, if you had Evernote, I don't know that you would really need that because Evernote has Chrome extensions as well, but it works really well. Okay, then what I do is I move on to, once I've got kind of my to-dos organized, then I move on to a program called Task World. And that's where I start kind of organizing all of my bigger project ideas. I kind of start keeping track of everything. I can do processes, bigger guitar processes there. So I use a program called Task World. So once I've got a guitar course that I'm in process of creating, I tend to move to Task World and I start trying to put all of my pieces in there. That's what I use for that. If there's just stuff off the top of my head, like I'm driving in the car, or I'm at the mall or I'm at the restaurant or something and something strikes me and I just need to keep track of it quickly, I tend to use a program called, it's TickTick. I can never remember if it's called TikTok or TickTick. And I just put it in there and then it's just in there. So I can go back to that. I can go, oh, okay, so this is where these little fleeting ideas go. Now I could have used Trello for that too, right? And just made ideas or quick notes or something and put it in there too, but I use a program called TickTick. Now it might seem like I'm using a lot of programs, but there's only about 5 or 6 of them that I use. And every day I do the small term ones like Trello and TickTick, and then the bigger ones are Task World and Noteboard, things like that. Now, again, you might be able to do all of this in one app like Evernote. I just want you to keep track of this because the more you can organize yourself, you can come across a page that you like and go, okay, perfect. I want to clip that and I want to save it. Where are you going to save it to? You see, that's the big thing. If you can get yourself organized a little bit, it's going to make not only your guitar playing and your future, goals and things like that easier, but it might make organizing just your life in general a little bit easier. So again, I'm sorry that this was kind of long and I'm not trying to just talk your ear off, but learning how to organize your life so when you wake up in the morning, you're not going, oh my God, I just got 8 million things to do. Organizing yourself is really important because you can save yourself a lot more time. That's going to give you more time with your guitar playing. It's going to give you more time for knowing what to grab or where to grab it so you can learn something new or explore something else. But it also gives you more time with your friends or family because you've got everything organized. You know what you're going to be doing tomorrow, or you took this idea that you liked and you saved it somewhere where you can access it again. So again, sorry if I was talking a lot, but I just thought I'd give you this because I woke up this morning, I started working on this, and I was reading some emails that I got, and I went, boy, getting yourself organized is going to help you enormously. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon.